Welcome to another explainer of NCSA Learn. NCSA stands for the National Cybersecurity Agency of the Maldives, where our goal is to make you, the user, the strongest link in cybersecurity. Right, let's jump straight into it. Today, we're unpacking the absolute most critical software security vulnerabilities facing us right now by demystifying the OWASP Top 10 for 2025.
You see, our mission at the NCSA is completely focused on empowering you. Why? Well, because an educated user is literally the ultimate defense against digital threats. Seriously, you can have all the fancy firewalls and high-end security software in the world, but if the human element, that's us, isn't equipped with the right knowledge, the whole system just isn't secure.
So, to hit that goal and empower you, we rely on a true gold standard in the industry, the OWASP Top 10 for 2025. This is basically the definitive awareness document. It represents a massive, broad consensus about the most critical security risks out there for web applications, and it's just been updated with the very latest data and trends. You can think of it as our ultimate map of the current app security landscape. Okay, here's our game plan for today. We've taken these 10 complex vulnerabilities and grouped them into 4 highly logical battlegrounds to make them super easy to digest: access and identity flaws, design and configuration errors, code and pipeline vulnerabilities, and finally, detection and handling failures. Moving right to our first category, access and identity flaws. This is all about managing exactly who you are.
We're starting off strong with A07 on the OWASP list, authentication failures. This happens when your identity verification mechanisms are just weak, or frankly, completely broken. It basically lets attackers easily compromise accounts or just outright impersonate real users. It is exactly like handing a thief the keys to your front door just because the lock you installed was completely useless.
Now compare that to A01, broken access control. This one is the failure to enforce proper authorization, so it allows users to access or modify stuff far beyond their intended permissions. Picture a hotel guest suddenly getting their hands on a master key. They've bypassed the proper authorization and now they can wander into any room they want. Not good. So here is the absolutely crucial difference between those two. Authentication, that's A07, is all about proving who you are. Access control, A01, dictates exactly what you are allowed to do once you've proven that identity and actually made it inside the building. Make sense? All right, having secured the front door and laid down the ground rules, we really have to ask ourselves a fundamental question. Are your security foundations structurally sound from the very beginning? Like, is the actual architecture of our software built to withstand an attack?
And that brings us to Category 2, Design and Configuration Errors, basically how it's built.
Let's look at A06, Insecure Design. These are fundamental, baked-in design flaws where security just wasn't built into the architecture, the threat modeling, or the business logic right from the start. Guys, it's essentially like building a bank, but forgetting to include a vault because security wasn't on the original blueprints. And trust me, you simply cannot just patch a missing vault in later.
Next up, A02 highlights security misconfigurations. This one pops up from improperly configured systems. We're talking dangerous default settings, you know the ones, exposed services, or just missing security hardening. These are super easily avoidable oversights, but they create massive, completely unintended attack surfaces.
Then we've got A04, cryptographic failures. This stems from weak, incorrect, or sometimes completely missing cryptographic protections. If you aren't encrypting your data properly, or if you're using outdated, broken methods, you are inevitably leaving your most sensitive data totally exposed for anyone to grab.
Okay, moving right along. So with the design phase and the system configurations handled, we face another huge hurdle. Once it's actually built, how do we trust the code and the components running on the inside? We really have to question the integrity of the very ingredients we use to build our digital tools in the first place.
Welcome to Category 3, Code and Pipeline Vulnerabilities. Let's look at what's inside. Now, threats love to inject themselves into 3 distinct steps of the software lifecycle. Step 1 is your external dependencies, Step 2 is your CI/CD build pipeline, and Step 3 is the live application execution itself. Looking at that first step, A03 gives us software supply chain failures. Modern software relies so heavily on external parts, right? This risk involves compromised or vulnerable dependencies and third-party components. You yourself might write absolutely perfect code, but if you rely on a compromised third-party component, you've just introduced massive risks into your entire operation.
Moving along the pipeline to Step 2, we find A08, software or data integrity failures. This is basically a lack of integrity checks in your software updates or your CI/CD pipelines. If you aren't actively verifying exactly what's moving through your pipeline, malicious tampering with your code or trusted data can go completely unnoticed before it gets pushed out to the public.
And finally, in Step 3, execution, we hit A05, injection. This happens when untrusted input gets executed as malicious commands. Think rogue SQL database queries or sketchy OS scripts. It essentially allows attackers to trick the application into running unintended commands to directly manipulate your systems. It's a classic, but it's still so dangerous.
Okay, we've covered identity, design, and the code itself. But what happens if a breach completely bypasses all of those defenses we just talked about and goes entirely unnoticed? If they get past the code and the pipeline, our absolute last line of defense relies 100% on our ability to actually see them.
Which leads us to our final group, Category 4, detection and handling failures. Let's talk about who's watching.
A09 highlights security logging and alerting failures. This is when insufficient logging, monitoring, or alerting quite literally blinds you. Without these critical mechanisms humming along, you won't have any timely detection or response to a live security incident. The attackers are already inside, and you don't even have the lights turned on to see them.
And closing out our OWASP Top 10 list, A10 warns us about the mishandling of exceptional conditions. This is all about the improper handling of errors or abnormal states. Think about it. When your system crashes, how does it respond? If it's not handled gracefully, it can trigger insecure behavior, like accidentally leaking highly sensitive system information right back onto the screen for the attacker to read.
All right, let's bring it all together. By grouping these 10 risks into 4 clear categories, identity, design, code, and detection, we can systematically defend our web apps. We've got to structure security straight from the design phase, enforce really strict access rules, maintain integrity across our entire supply chain, and absolutely always log, alert, and handle our errors securely.
As we wrap up this explainer for NCSA Learn, I want to leave you with one critical question to chew on today. How will you apply this knowledge to ensure you are the strongest link in cybersecurity? The risks out there are very real, but now you have the understanding you need to help defend against them. Keep learning, stay vigilant, and stay secure.